Local Justice, presented by Elrod Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome to Local Justice. Today on Local Justice, we're joined by one of York County's most experienced criminal defense attorneys, Leland Greeley. With over 30 years of courtroom experience and thousands of cases under his belt, Leland has seen the legal system from just about every angle possible. And today we're going to take a closer look and let everyone get to know Leland a little bit. So Leland, thanks for joining us. We're glad to have you on the show.
Ben, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to being able to talk with you about something I've done for a while now.
Absolutely. Well, We're glad to have you. And I was just chatting with you beforehand saying, our office gets tons of calls with questions outside of our practice area. And probably the most common one involves criminal defense or traffic tickets. And usually the first words out of our mouth are, go see Leland or go see Harry, around the corner, that go to the experts. Right. And so what better way of, passing that knowledge along than getting you on the show and letting you, pass some of your wisdom along as well.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Let's start at the beginning and dive back into your background a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and kind of what ultimately led you down this path of law and criminal defense in particular.
Well, I was born and reared here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's funny, I tell people I was born and reared in South Carolina, and so I can say whatever I want to about our beloved state. But I went to Northwestern High School, graduated from there. I went to Clemson University and did my undergraduate there. I then did some graduate work there because my wife, Sabella, had not yet finished at Clemson. And so I did graduate work in the history department. And then the way that I decided that I was going to go into law, see, it really isn't part of my family. And this is a true story. People would not believe this. When you're in college, a lot of people watch soap operas in the afternoon. And there was a soap opera that was Days of Our Lives. And my wife and I would watch Days of Our Lives at 2 p.m. In the afternoon after class. There was a lawyer on Days of Our Lives. And I told my wife, I said, that looks kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure what lawyers do, but I may try that. And that is actually what made me decide to take the LSAT and apply for law school.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
A lot of legal shows are not necessarily based on reality, but it's funny that that's what ultimately led you down this path.
Right. Well, it was. I wasn't sure. I was in graduate school. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and that just sparked an interest. So I decided I would at least go down that road to see if it worked, and eventually it did.
And so you get through law school. Did you come back to Rock Hill immediately?
I did.
Okay.
I did. When I was in third year law school, I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office as a law clerk in the criminal division. And I was working for our now governor, Mr. McMaster. And I was also working with Joe McCrory, who is a very good friend of your father's.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was my first experience with criminal law, was on the federal level as a law clerk. But of course, Mr. McCrory, who was a mister at that point in time, was friends with the prosecutor in York, Red Ferguson.
Oh, yeah.
And they were looking for someone, and so I applied for the job, and that's how I ended up back here in York County.
That's great. And I know a lot of local lawyers started at the prosecutor's office here, and that allowed y'all to get a lot of experience under your belt at an early and pretty quick age.
Yes, it did. Back then, this was 1986 when I began, there were, Larry Grant was the full-time deputy solicitor when I joined the office, and Red Ferguson was the elected solicitor. And then we had Bruce Poore, who would come during court to help out. Mm-hmm. And then I joined the office, and that was it. That was the people while I did my work for 2 years at the prosecutor's office.
And during those 2 years, did your heart feel pulled at any point towards the defense side, or what was that transition like, and what kind of led you to that?
No, it really didn't. It wasn't a matter of heart or preference.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the aspect of what goes on in criminal court and what it's about, okay? Every criminal case, not every one, but many of them involve human tragedy, our human tragedy. Whether you're a prosecutor or whether you're a defense attorney, you're dealing with the same case, possibly from different perspectives, but you're dealing with the same case. And so the time that I was a prosecutor, I enjoyed my work. And then when I left the office, if I wanted to remain in criminal law, I would have to be doing criminal defense. And so that's what I did. I went and began doing criminal defense and civil and a few other areas, because I went to work with Hayes, Brunson, and Gatlin.
Oh,
Yeah.
And spent a couple years there. And when did you hang your own shingle?
I hung my own shingle in 1990.
Oh, right.
So I've been doing it now for 35 years, for the most part. I did have I worked with some other attorneys twice during that period, but it wasn't for long periods of time. And so I have pretty much been doing my own thing for about 35 years.
That's great. And you're located right on Main Street?
Yes, I am.
That's
Yep.
right. Been there for a long time, and
Yep.
not planning on going anywhere anytime soon.
No, if it's up to me, I won't be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing some about your background. That
Sure.
helps bring us up to speed. We're going to take a quick commercial break here, and then we're going to dive into some of the specifics on some of the practice areas that you
Okay.
handle. So thanks for joining us, and thank you for tuning in to Local Justice, and we'll be right back shortly.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod and Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not gonna have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
Being there for someone in their time of need is what Green Funeral Home has done compassionately for 4 generations. It's a privilege we take very seriously.
We believe each life should be honored and remembered by family and friends. Whether you choose traditional burial in our chapel or another venue, or cremation provided by our on-site crematory, we will help guide you through each step to ensure your needs are met.
We are also available to discuss pre-planning. Peace of mind that you have helped your loved one by making those difficult decisions.
When the need arises, our family is here for your family.
At Founders, we know your finances matter. That's why we have loans for any reason.
Can Founders help us with our mortgage?
Of course.
Can Founders get me an
auto loan? Not a problem.
Nice.
Can we do something about this?
Home improvements? Absolutely.
How about just getting ahead?
Pay down some bills? We can do that. When you need a loan, our great low rates give you the opportunity to invest in the most important thing, you. So relax. At Founders, we're with you every step of the way.
Live Strong at the YMCA is a lifesaver for so many people.
I love Live Strong because you meet so many people, you learn how strong you can be physically and mentally.
The camaraderie and the closeness that you feel and come together as a group is just amazing.
We meet them where they are, and we work with them to help them get stronger.
At the YMCA of Upper Palmetto, we are proud to offer our community the support of the Live Strong program to all cancer survivors. For more information, visit your local branch.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader, and today I'm honored to sit down with Leland Greeley, one of York County's most prominent criminal defense attorneys and someone that's been practicing law for more than 30 years and has handled thousands of cases in our local community. Leland, thanks again for being with us today.
Thank you, Ben.
I want to dive right back into some specifics of some of the practice areas you handle. Most of us have been pulled over in some capacity one way or another, over the years, and some people just pay the fine, and some people go and retain a traffic attorney to assist with that process. I'd love to hear some of your insights on how the point system works in South Carolina, just so we can explain to the viewers what the actual system we work with is, and then what your thoughts are on when it makes sense to get an attorney and when it may make more sense to pay a fine.
Well, a lot of times people may not know exactly what the collateral, and that's what we call them, collateral consequences may be for a particular ticket. And if they just go in and pay the fine, and the fine may seem like it's not that great an amount of money and they don't want to deal with the court anymore, and so they just go and pay the fine, there may be some collateral consequences that will pop up administratively with the Department of Motor Vehicles that they were not aware of. So one of the things that everyone may want to consider is at least giving a call to an office so that the office can review what you have been charged with for those collateral consequences. The point system has to do with the number of points that are allotted to you for violations over a period of time. And if somebody reaches 12 points, then they have the possibility that the Department of Motor Vehicles is going to suspend their license for a points violation with that. And certain tickets can go anywhere from 2 points to 4 points to 6 points. The more serious, most serious, like reckless driving, are 6 points. And then, of course, you've got alcohol offenses, which may be either driving under the influence of alcohol or driving with an unlawful alcohol content. And those are not point violations, but those are going to end up being straight suspension violations. And the collateral consequences are going to be much more extreme. And so if someone is charged with that, it would be helpful for them to consult an attorney who does that type of defense.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the collateral damage to some of these citations, and another side of the coin I think that a lot of people aren't thinking about when they just pay a fine, maybe the insurance implications too.
Sure, and the insurance is going to check that. They're going to check your points, and their premium will go up if you get a certain amount of points, and it doesn't take too much. You get 4 points and you're probably going to see a knock on your insurance.
That's right, and a lot of people are looking at the immediate cost of that ticket charge versus what they may have to pay a lawyer, but they're not thinking about for the next 3 or 4 years what does my premium look like if I pay this citation. So,
that's right, that's correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
From your vantage point, what has changed the most about criminal defense practice over the last 10 or 20 years?
One of the things is that, and this is a concern that I have in regards to the current system, and it has to do with juvenile court, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yes, we get involved in juvenile court. You have a young person in your household, and imagine that. They get into a little bit of trouble. But one of the things that has occurred and changed during my practicing law is that the system is much more willing to criminalize children now. There was a time when your parents would respond and they would do what needed to be done in regards to some transgression that the child had. Now it seems like every answer is to charge the child with a crime. I'm talking about if they're 12, if they're 13, and they get petitioned to juvenile court. I can remember in high school, if you had two students who got in a fight, the school handled it and the parents handled it, but the young folks didn't have to go through the criminal process. Now it appears that no matter what happens anywhere, they're going to be petitioned or charged. And we don't need to criminalize so many young people. I don't think that's the answer. They need to be taught, punished to some degree, but taught more than anything. And what happens is the family court, which has jurisdiction over juvenile, gets clogged up. They have got cases that the family court judges don't need to deal with. They just they don't have the time to deal with those. But law enforcement will petition almost anybody for any transgression.
Wow.
And I wish that they would subside that tide of those things. And I don't think that the public defenders and the prosecutors would disagree with the caseloads that they get.
So would you say that on average you're representing a lot more juveniles in these types of kind of proceedings nowadays than you were in the past?
Well, I'm just getting juveniles now in cases to where I feel like, couldn't this have been handled some other way rather than going through the court system for this?
Right.
Okay. But that's not my job.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. In terms of, outside of the juvenile system in South Carolina as a whole, what areas do you think are needing the most reform as it relates to criminal justice right now?
Well, I know that we've had some reform on the fentanyl drugs. I think that we did need to be able to put some more emphasis on that. So this really isn't about the fentanyl aspect, but we always need to be careful with the legislature whenever it feels like it needs to address crime. And I'm not sure when they feel like that needs to happen, but whenever they decide they need to address crime, one of the things the legislature likes to do is to give mandatory minimum sentences. And they will put very long sentence minimums on people for certain behaviors. And one of the things that does is, I saw a statistic one time, and I do believe that it's still that way, and some people would celebrate this as being good, but and like I said, I was born and reared here. I can talk about this. But the state of South Carolina per capita incarcerates, puts into prison more people than any other place in the world.
Wow.
Okay? Not in the United States, in the world.
Wow.
And we are housing more people than any other place. And it costs probably mid-$20,000 per inmate that for us to house them. And it would be a lot cheaper to educate them.
Absolutely.
But of course, we don't tend to we're going to fund prisoners more than we are students.
Right.
And I think that's something that people don't want to admit nor address.
That's a fascinating statistic.
Okay. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with Leland to dive right back into a few more topics. So thank you for tuning in with us, and we'll see you shortly.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
At Palmetto Pride, we know we have a choice. The choice for a cleaner South Carolina. And it's an easy one at that. Don't litter. No grand gestures or heroic efforts here, but the outcome still has monumental impacts. When it comes to our state, every choice counts and every action matters. From the great outdoors to parks next door, from Main Street to your street. All it takes is a little bit of pride to keep South Carolina beautiful.
When a catastrophe hits, it can be a very stressful time for you. When you have trees on your house, when you have trees on your cars, and you don't know what to do, you call us.
We're not a 1-800 number, we're an 803 number. We've been in business for over 60 years because we take care of our clients. That means taking care of them during claim situations.
We're not 9 to 5, we're 24/7. We're gonna be there when you need us most. Gill Insurance, your local auto owner's agent. Understanding business is how we do business.
When it comes to prescription medications and health needs, Rock Hill residents have been turning to Good Pharmacy for over 50 years.
I've been coming to Good Pharmacy since we came to Rock Hill in 1984, and I would not change pharmacists for anything.
With their knowledgeable staff, you can always trust that your prescription will be filled with complete confidence and care for your health. Good Pharmacy, conveniently located at the corner of Ebenezer Road and Camden Avenue.
At Founders, we know your finances matter. That's why we have loans for any reason.
Can Founders help us with our mortgage?
Of course.
Can Founders get me an
auto loan? Not a problem.
Nice.
Can we do something about this?
Home improvements? Absolutely.
How about just getting ahead?
Pay down some bills? We can do that. When you need a loan, our great low rates give you the opportunity to invest in the most important thing, you. So relax. At Founders, we're with you every step of the way.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader, and today I'm honored to sit down with Leland Greeley, one of York County's most prominent criminal defense attorneys. Leland, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ben.
After thousands of cases and several decades in the courtroom, I know this is a tough question, but how do you personally define justice?
Oh, I don't know actually how to define justice. I will say this. We have the best judicial system that the world has created in the United States, and it comes from England. And it has its flaws. It's got lots of flaws, but it's the best that we have. And the reason is because human beings are the ones who create it and run it. And so even though we're the best, we do have flaws, but we have to take pride at least in that we have the best. And the reason that we have the best is because it is an adversarial system to where we try and get as close to justice as we can with this system. Everybody in the system has a job, okay? The judge has a job. Prosecutor has a job. Defense attorney has a job. Clerk of court has a job. The jury has a job. And if everybody in that system does the best that they can do on each case, and they are competent to do their job, then we may get as close to true justice as there is.
That's great. And over the years, just 11 years of practice in law, a lot of the questions I hear surrounding criminal defense law is always the stereotypical, how do you represent somebody that you think is guilty? I'd love to hear your insight on that question and why it's so important for that person to still have a defense, regardless of innocence or guilt.
Well, the thing is for them to have a defense, or for them to have, and you've heard this a lot, due process of law lately. There's been a lot of that talk lately, okay? A person must have due process of law because it protects everyone. And some people are going to say we don't need the due process of law. it doesn't protect anyone, it only protects bad people. Well, no, that's not true. It protects everyone, excuse me, but you only see it when it is in force and working regarding when someone has been accused of being a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And people may say, yeah, but we still don't need it. No, you have to understand, the only reason that you haven't had it yet is because somebody hasn't accused you of wrongdoing.
Right.
And so you have to have it for everybody. You know, there's an old adage, an old line that comes from William Shakespeare's Henry VI, Part 2, to where Dick the Butcher says, first we kill all the lawyers. Okay? Now, a lot of people laugh at that and say, yeah, that's what we need to do because lawyers do nothing but cause problems.
Mm-hmm.
That was not the purpose of that line in Henry VI. What it was the lawyers are the ones who keep people from overcoming the law of the land. We assert the law against the powerful. And if you don't have anyone to assert the law against the powerful, then the powerful are going to take over, and they will one day accuse you. And this is one of the things that we are having to look at right now in our country with the way things are going sometimes, to where the law is trying to be set aside, to where the law is not wanting to be followed. And it's the lawyers who assert the law, and thus that's why they need to be done away with. Okay? That was the purpose of that line in Henry VI.
That's great. And I know there's been so many instances over the years where we didn't get it right at the time of a trial or a case, despite the general public being convinced that certain things happened a certain way.
Well, here's another thing. I've been doing this, and you said I've represented thousands, and I have. I've done homicide, murders, all the way down to DUI. I've done a death penalty case. I've stood in front of the court and had the death sentence read to my client. Mm-hmm. A lot of lawyers can't tell you that, okay? But there's one thing that is very important as to that, okay? And it just flew my mind. They're gonna have to cut this out, okay? I'm trying to think of what it was. Wait a minute. I'll get to it.
It's all right. I think I said something about we don't always get it right.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. And what it is that I have never questioned publicly or to any third person or second person a jury verdict, whether it's on TV or whether it's mine in my case. And the reason is because we have 12 people who have come in. They're the ones who heard everything. They are the ones who talked about it. They are the ones who came up with a unanimous decision. And so the jury verdict is right. The jury gets it right. And what they get right in the criminal sense is whether the state proved the person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not whether the person did this or not. That's not the issue. The issue is whether the state proved them guilty. And the jury always gets that right.
That's right. That's fascinating insight. And this was just a glimpse into the mind of Leland Greeley, as I mentioned, one of the most experienced and one of the brightest criminal defense attorneys we have in our area. Leland, thank you so much for sharing just a piece of your insights with us and some of your wisdom. I feel like we could talk all day long about a lot of these topics, and we're just scratching the surface. But if folks need to find you, you're on Main Street. They can find you online, I assume.
Right.
And
they can find me online.
Hope you don't need him just like us, but if you do, he's a great attorney and a great resource for us to have here in York County. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to our viewers for tuning in with us. We'll see you next time on another episode of Local Justice. Take care.